Hello, guys. Welcome back. So, as we told you yesterday, even though I'm filming it later today, we added Wicca and witchcraft back in. One, because we don't want people excluded, but two, because I'm throwing a bunch of labels on there that are close enough to whatever I am, and if people don't like it, boo. And I go, whoo. Um, we have International Household of Awesome back in full effect because Odin got what Odin always wanted and found out it wasn't what he wanted at all. I don't know what he thought would become of it, but there it's kind of like the thing about turns out the reason you weren't doing chores around the house wasn't because you had time, and of time we will never speak of. Yeah. Turns out the reason why Norse gods weren't spending unlimited amount of time with me didn't have anything at all to do with other gods being here. And once he realized that they just wanted a lot of time and then they're good, the reason the Etra for just having a heathen or all Norse household fell apart. And, I've been asking him questions because, he wants us to walk our walk. And I said, this was our family. These were our friends and our family and our allies. For you to get what you want, we had to cut them all off, and they were no longer welcome. I said, does that even sound remotely like something any heathen ever should do? No. And I asked Thor because Thor was one that pushed out another deity that I won't say who pushed out. And I said, this was someone that Loki was close allies with. This was someone I was close allies with. Yes, you pushed them out and you got the Thor share of attention. Not Thor being dishonorable and bad, but just Thor being Thor and deciding that as easygoing as he is, he wanted this old Norse household too. I said, but is it worth the cost? I said, Loki no longer has an ally, and I love Loki, and Loki was suffering. And I said, he's trying to pretend for the sake of the rest of you that he's enjoying this, but he misses his friends. He misses, the freedom of gods to come and go. And I said, I have to stand up for him because it looks like nobody else is going to. And that's not speaking badly of the Norse gods. It's just they can want something so badly it's a pyrrhic victory, which means it's there's such a catastrophic loss that it's really a hollow victory. Like, yeah, you won the war, but at what cost? It's like, yeah, you won the Nordic household, but at what cost? Loki's miserable. The Norse gods came in for a few days, were enjoying, unlimited access, and then they're like, oh, that wasn't part of the problem, was it? And, they have all the VR temples now, and they have everything going their way, and it can never go back to the other way because, we can't just. I made a VR temple and talk playlist for you guys at Loki's request. We can't go back to the way I used to set temples up, so it's kind of a moot point. You could say these temples were heathen, you could say they were Christian, you could say they were Jewish, and they'd all look the same. And I'm getting, yep. And, it's a thing of too, as I've been binging on heathen content, I said there's a lot of pushing other people down to big oneself up in heathenry, and that's a huge problem. And maybe as a gay person I'm more sensitive, but if you start throwing, or a Wiccan of several decades, I'm more sensitive. But if you start throwing around terms like woo and fluff bunny, and it sounds cute, it sounds harmless, but it's meant as derogatory as any other derogatory term was ever meant. It just doesn't sound as brutal. It's not as harsh a consonant word as some other hate words, but it's meant the same way. It's meant to discredit and delegitimize another human being because you don't agree with their practices. I got preach it, sister. And I said, I'm not gonna have, good friff with these people because I agree with what a lot of these people say. I think they're brilliant people, but I'm like, no, I can't agree with that. I can't agree with talking down at, other witches and pagans because, as much as we don't want to admit it, one person's witchcraft is another person's religion. A witch will be doing it and saying, yes, I'm doing witchcraft with the Allfather, and a heathen will be doing it and going, no, this is a religion. It's Wicca is a religion. It's like it's a religion. You can work magic without the gods to be sure, but it's still a religion. As I used to teach people in Wicca 101, magic Magic is really fancy prayers. Whether you're praying to the universe, yourself, or the gods, it's really fancy prayers. And anything you do with intent is magic, from making your breakfast to sending a letter to someone you love. It's all magic. It's all magic. We own it all. And I'm getting giggles and tears. And I said, it really, it kind of like shook off any illusions I had that I was going to find this big comforting place in heathenry. I said, I'll use the label heathen, but I don't belong with the vast majority of heathens. And I'm like, well, this is why I would never sit down and share mead with these people, because they're, one, I don't drink mead, and two, there might be harm involved the minute they started to, put down other people. And I don't care if I never work with Jesus another day of my life, but when you start picking on the God that the progressives now have as a God of love, and they have mostly thrown out the Bible, progressive Christians. I'm not saying they're perfect walk on water saints, but they've mostly thrown out the Bible. They don't have the idea of hell. They don't care about premarital sex. They couldn't be any more progressive and loving. Do they always get it right? No, of course not. But, they're trying to hold out an olive branch to other faiths. They're trying to hold out an olive branch to Wicca. They're trying to hold out an olive branch to pagans and heathens and atheists, and nobody's responding. And I'm like, well, it kind of sucks to leave them out there in the middle of the war zone all on their own. That's not very good. And the same thing for Wiccans. Wiccans want to get along with everybody. It's like no one else will get along with them. You want to be tough? Become a Wiccan. After a couple days of getting, hit from all sides, including other Wiccans, you will become very strong in personality. You might seem gentle and fluff bunny, but you'll be made of pure steel underneath. The bunny fur will fly off, and there will be this creature made of steel underneath. I go, yes. It makes you awfully resilient, and it makes you think, okay, you know what? You don't want me in your special heathen club because I work with the tarot, or I have crystals, or I believe in astrology. Fine, keep your special heathen club. I really don't care, because you don't speak for the gods. The hardest part of growing up as a witch, heathen, pagan, anything, Christian, whatever, is realizing you don't own your deity. You have been taught you own your deity. You've been taught you're deity's chosen people, which is pretty darn toxic teaching. But you don't own them, my darlings. Um, we don't own, for example, if we work with the Norse gods, we don't own the Norse runes. Do I look Nordic to you? No, I'm not. We don't own the Norse gods. We don't own the runes. We don't own the stuff. Can it be problematic the way some people use them? Yes. But that's going to always go on. And it's not like me having a coronary over it is going to magically go back in time and stop it, you know? And as we were looking through these old temple tours, I said to Loki, I said, looking back, that is like some of the happiest times we had together, when everybody was getting along and everybody was being cool. And we had one temple that's on the tour that at first I was cringing, because I've been, you know, overindulging on all this heathen stuff, and it had, the Jesus stuff in there, and it had the wolf cross in there, which was what people started to wear. It was during the conversion period, and well, it wasn't like some heathens make it sound. Were some Christians bad to some heathens? Oh yes, but so were Viking raiders to a lot of people. Some people converted peacefully, and they would wear a wolf's cross, and it showed they still love Thor, but this Jesus guy was okay. And ironically, it looks like a Thor's hammer, but it also looks like an inverted cross. So, for all the edgelords out there wearing inverted crosses, I'm sorry, the Vikings beat you by several hundred years. So, again, yeah, and it's okay. You can be whatever you want and work with the Norse gods. I give you special Lokean permission to do that. You can be Jewish or atheist or pagan or Voodoo or something else. It's just, it's all in our attitude, how we present ourselves. Don't grab the Norse gods and say, these are mine now because I grabbed them, and how dare you, and, fight against the people that mainly work with them. At the same time, you don't have to take abuse and crap from people because you're working with these gods, because they don't ultimately belong to these people. I think you know what I mean. It's like, most First Nations people, if you learned how to properly smudge from somebody in the First Nations, they're fine with that. What they're not fine with is you learning their sacred rituals and then putting them into a book and making money off of them. That's what they're not fine with. Cultural appreciation is learning things and doing them the right way to the best of your ability within your own worldview and your own lookout. Cultural appropriation is wearing a headdress to whatever that thing is, Coachella or whatever. And I got, yep. And that's the thing. It's like it's stuff that there are these First Nation comedians. I forget what it is. It sounds like a call sign for a radio station, but they kind of make fun of that. Like, there are all these First Nation stores all over our country, and yet most of the stuff's made in China. They go, oh, yeah, an Indian made that. And, sorry for the members of First Nations, but that's how, these people talk. They're like, real authentic Indian kachinas, and you like turn it over, and like some are signed. I had some that were signed, then went through my vegan phase, and they were returned to Mother Earth. But and some are made in China too. They just take the tags off. They're like, yeah, an Indian made that. Again, sorry, I know that's not an appropriate word, but that's like Trading Post had a word in front of it that's not proper to say in 2021. I apologize, old lady, not always going to be perfect. And now I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, how much of that stuff was actually made by First Nations people that actually hunted and trapped it? And how much was, hunted and trapped to be sure, but, the funny thing is stuff round robins. We hunt and trap it here. We send it to Europe to process sometimes, or we process it, send it to Europe. It gets sent to China for some reason, and then it ends up back here. I've never figured out how that works, but it's just the way it goes. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just it goes literally the whole way around the world to end up back in America to be sold to you. So it's like, wouldn't it be a lot more efficient to just buy off the trappers? Like, it wouldn't have to go the whole way around the world, which is what I try to do on eBay when I get pelts. And, it was kind of a thing of, it's kind of strange to laugh at a high priestess for having a flower crown and a dress and her crystals, yet you were dressed up as, in no insult meant, you were dressed up as a Viking warrior or a wizard or, whatever it is. It's like, it's the same exact thing. You're putting on clothing, sacred clothing to you that means something to you sacredly, yet yours is okay, but that other person's is something you can laugh at and poke fun of. It's like, you do realize we all look fairly ridiculous, right? Because, and I go, yes, finally. The only witches I've seen pull off the witch look are either people trying to trend on Instagram, that they do pretty good, or it's a stereotypical witch look, or the people that really look like witches are the witches of Salem. They got it on point because they do dress like that 24/7. They don't dress like that for the normies or for the tourists and then go home and put on jeans and t-shirt. That is actually how these people dress. This is not a joke. These are witches, and it's like, see, they can carry it off because they actually dress like that. Where if I would put on, the coven dress and, the crown and everything, I'd look fairly ridiculous because I can't own that. That is a costume I put on, and I might have put it on for ritual, but it just doesn't work. I remember when Bastet has you work skyclad, but keep that image out of your head. But Athena would have me get this. All I could afford at the time was, literally a Greek costume. But it was okay, but it always felt like a great costume. I was wearing it as a sacred thing because that's all I could afford, but it was clear that I got more comfortable with it over time, but to get truly comfortable with it, I would have had to wear it 24/7, which would have been odd because it was a costume. So, in ritual gear, everything else, it's all equal to me. It's like it can look beautiful and it can look silly to outsiders, and I think that's fair to say. And so, international household is up and going, and I didn't like that intolerance that I was seeing. And I was like, I respect you on everything else, but this is not cool, dude. Just laughing at other people because you don't work with crystals doesn't mean no one can, because you don't do tarot or astrology, it doesn't mean no one else can. And then it was just problematic behavior rules for the not for me, like, you can't work with First Nation spirits because you're appropriating, but I can totally do a land right ritual on what used to be First Nations land, because that makes total sense, because as everybody knows, all the land rights of Europe were dumped over here by Odin. And I'm like, dude, are you saying they colonized? Because that's problematic. And I'm not trying to step on any toes. If you believe you're working with European land right, more power to you. But you can't have it both ways. You can't shout appropriation at other people and then work with the same exact spirits and say it's okay when you do it, because you have done that conversion in your mind to them being European spirits. So, peace out. We love all you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.